Hey everybody, Aaron Zeller here of the Zeller Writing Company and inkonhand.com. Today I want to talk about a cool new set of fountain pen inks that just came out from Scribal Workshop. It's called the Cryptid series and it's a set of 5 different inks. I've had a chance to play and mess around with them a little bit and now I want to let you know what I found out. So let's check them out. So here are the 5 inks from Scribal Workshop, the Cryptid series, and if you're wondering, a cryptid is a mythological creature and each of these inks is named after one of them. So as you can see, there's Kraken here, which is going to be your black ink. Leviathan is a green. Nessie is going to be your purple ink. Sirens is your blue, and Zulong is your red ink. Now we can start by just checking out the bottles. And the bottles are amber colored. They look to be almost like the old medicine kind of bottles. On the front, you have an image of the creature that the ink was named after. In this case, it's Kraken. The title's right in the middle, and then underneath that it has a little description of what's in the bottle. Just black fountain pen ink, and underneath 2 fluid ounces, 60 milliliters. Each of these bottles are 2 fluid ounces, and I'm not sure if they're making larger. I'm sure we'll be able to get larger if we needed it, but for now the only size available is the 2 fluid ounces or 60 milliliter size bottles. On the side of the bottle, it gives a little information about the creature that the ink was named after. Image, the company's logo, and then on the other side is actually what I'm really excited about, because it's an actual swab of the ink that's inside the bottle. Now some people might say, like, why does that really matter? And to me it's because I know over the years companies tend to change their ink formulations a little bit, and so if the ink started out being fairly well represented on the color of the box or just an image on the bottle or something like that, over the years that might change quite a bit. Now when they're putting an actual swab of the ink on the label itself, you'll be able to know the exact color of the ink that's in the bottle, and you'll be able to tell instantly if the formulation changed, basically, because the color will be slightly different. And that's on all of the bottles. The Kraken there, the Leviathan, has a nice little squiggle. I don't know if he's going to be doing squiggles or lines on him or anything. This is just what I have right now. There's Nessie is purple, the Siren, the nice blue one, and Zulong is the nice well-saturated red. For the openings of the ink bottles themselves, when you take the lid off, you are definitely able to fit your pen completely into the bottle, submerge it in order to get the ink out of there. However, once you get lower to the bottom, you might need to use a syringe or a siphon or decant it into another container, because there is no like little dip or anything at the bottom in order to submerge your nib into, in order to make sure it's fully covered to get the ink out of the bottle. It's not a huge deal, but just something to take into account for once the ink runs low. Another thing I should probably mention when opening the bottles is you're definitely going to notice a scent to these inks. Most ink companies, I talked to Lucas about this, who runs Scribal Workshop, because I was curious about it, and most ink companies, you'll smell a sweet kind of scent when you open the ink. And that's because they actually put almost like a covering chemical in order to mask the actual scent of the chemicals inside of the ink. And Scribal Workshop really likes to maintain as natural of ingredients as possible, and so doesn't put that covering chemical in there. So when you open the bottles, all the inks are a little different because the ingredients are a little different, but it almost smells kind of like a mentholated or a minty scent almost. What it really reminds me of is the scent of that aloe vera gel that a lot of people use when they get sunburned. I mean, the ink, the scent itself, that doesn't really bother me or anything. It's just definitely different and unique compared to other companies because it is a very, very natural set of ingredients in there. Now, if we want to check out performance of the ink, we can start by just checking out the ink swabs. Now, here's the red for the Zulong. Move this up so it's more on the screen. Red for the Zulong there. The blue for the Sirens. Purple for the Nessie. Green for Leviathan. And then black for Kraken. Now, first thing you can probably tell is these inks are fairly well saturated. There isn't a whole ton of differentiation throughout the entire swab. But the overall saturation, especially in the case of the Kraken, is really almost dependent on the nib that you use, the width of the nib. In the swab here, it looks almost like a dark gray over an actual black, but when you actually write with it, it's a very, very dark black, which I think is really, really cool, because I love shading, and normally I love blacks as dark as possible. But when you're writing with a fine, medium, or a broad point nib, the ink is really, really dark. Once you get to the wider nibs, like the italics or the stubs, you start to really see a lot more shading, and it looks almost like a darker gray, which is awesome because I am a huge, huge fan of gray ink. And I just love the Kraken. It's an ink that I probably have in 2 or 3 of my pens right now, actually, because it's just awesome and extremely fun to use. Now, when it comes to performance, I'll zoom out so you can actually check out the reviews that I made. Now, these reviews are just on HP 32-pound premium laser paper, because it performs well no matter what the ink. Everybody knows HP premium laser works really well. So you can tell throughout these, I did quite a few. I just did my standard form for each of these, which you can always download off my website if you want to do your own tests, which is a simple writing sample, ratings, saturation test, drip test, the overall rating of what I like to the ink completely, and then the dry time and the drown test. Now, the dry time for this ink is actually really nice. It's probably 10 seconds or less for all of these inks. For some of them, it's even less than that. Yeah, it looks like 10 is the longest on all of these pages. And for the most part, it's 5 seconds or less, which isn't a big deal for me, because being left-handed, I tend to blot with my rocker blotter before 10 seconds is up. Otherwise, it just ends up being a smeared mess everywhere. Now, when it comes to saturation, for the most part, these inks are fairly well saturated. The one that probably shows the greatest amount of shading and differentiation and saturation is going to be the purple Nessie, which from swab 1 through 3, it's a different saturation for each one. I'll zoom in really quick. It's a different level of saturation per swab. For the black here, it's completely black no matter what. There really wasn't a difference at all. The red Zulong is the same way. No real difference there. The green actually is probably about the same as Nessie Leviathan, because there is quite a bit of difference from swab 1 through swab 3. If you're looking for awesome shading, the green is definitely going to give you the best out of this series. And when it comes to water resistance, I was really surprised at how water resistant these inks actually are. The drip tests, there wasn't really much fading at all. There's a little smearing, but for the most part, it was probably the green here, or the red probably showed the greatest amount of difference, or I guess the blue too. There was quite a bit of difference for all of these, but for the most part, it would still be completely readable if the ink does happen to get wet, or if you are doing some kind of art where you're getting the ink wet. With the drown test, the blue again probably faded the most, has the greatest noticeable difference, but it's still completely readable. Green probably faded a little bit less than the blue, but still had some noticeable difference. Overall, I really like this ink. It performs very well. The saturation is fantastic. The shading of the Kraken is, I just love that. That's an ink that I use all the time because it is just really fun to use. And I'm really excited to get this ink out there and available, and I'm also really excited to see what Scribal Workshop has in store next. If this is their first batch of ink, their first series of ink, I really can't wait to see what else they have in store for the future, because this is a great way to introduce yourself to the fountain pen world. So I hope that you now at least have a basic understanding of these inks and know what to expect from them. Now, the plan is to have them available early October. However, I do have them up on ZellaWritingCompany.com right now if you would like to sign up to be notified when they are in stock. So I want to thank you for watching, and if you have any questions or comments at all, feel free to contact me via the contact form of the website, or always at ajzeller@ZellaWritingCompany.com. See you later.